right. Welcome, everybody, to the final PHLY branded Sixers Beat episode of the week. I am Derek Bodner, once again joined by Rich Hoffman. I think today we're going to take a little bit, spend a little bit of this week talking about, the past and sort of some of the key inflection points over the last decade, who we hold accountable. We then pivoted yesterday to talking a little bit more forward looking and three guards and how we think they are going to be able to play alongside of each other and how the future is going to play out. And today I think we're going to take a little bit of a broader look at the NBA and basically what we would change. If you're made king of the NBA, what would you do to fix or at least improve upon a lot of the on-court product? Welcome to PHLY Sixers Show, brought to you as always by Rothman Orthopedics. I do think if you are curious about the Quentin Grimes update from our old friend Jake Fisher, we will be talking about that in tomorrow's podcast. So check, be sure tomorrow to check wherever you watch and or consume your podcast. We will be talking about Quentin Grimes and a report that there is a possibility could take that qualifying offer. We will talk about that tomorrow. Today, we will talk mostly about the NBA and what changes we would like to see made. How you doing?
I'm good, man. We ghost of Christmas past, future, and we're going to the present today.
Yes.
On the things that we would change. Now, Derek, I don't know if you know this. This is a popular topic in sports because a lot of people believe that the NBA needs fixing. And I think a lot of people who think that the NBA needs fixing come at it from a place of not liking NBA basketball.
Yeah.
We like NBA basketball.
We do. And I actually don't think the NBA needs a ton. I don't think it is nearly as broken as people think. I think a lot of people will look at prior generations, the 90s, the 80s, aughts, whatever, and look at that as like the glory years and a more pure version of the game. I don't really subscribe to a lot of that. I think it's tough because we are in a social media age.
Everything is recorded now.
Everything is recorded. We can all, in the past, if you had a complaint about the style of play, you might talk about it with your friend group. You might talk about it at a barbershop, but nobody's going to hear that. Now, anyone with a Twitter account and or a microphone, and trust me, they give too many of each of those to, they give too many people have microphones. Trust me, we are two people sitting in front of one. But you can sort of like the momentum of complaints can build up and build up and build up and can become overwhelming. That doesn't mean the complaints are necessarily bigger than the ones in the past. Like I can't imagine if we all had Twitter accounts and microphones in the 90s and you were watching slop, post up basketball, getting fouled all the time.
People don't watch 90s regular season games, but there are some of them on YouTube.
Yeah.
And a random one kind of stinks.
Yes. And I think if we all had access to each other's opinions in the way we do now, we probably wouldn't look at that era quite as fondly, or at least the complaints that would come out about that era, if it was transported in today's media ecosystem, would be just as loud and just as deafening at times.
Now, this isn't to say that we don't welcome some
there's
suggestions, right?
Always improvements,
always things you can improve
Yep.
on. And I have some pretty specific ones too, both on the court and both in terms of the structure of the league. I think some of the complaints are actually perfectly fair, and they're ones that the owners and the players share the blame in creating. So I figure we should get to some of those. I think there's a few. I think we have some on-court things. I think we have some salary cap things, and then just some general structure things. And so, Derek, if you're saying that I am king for a day, and I think that's an important caveat because there is no way this would ever happen.
Yes, and I guess that's a good point because we're not operating in a world where you have to worry about the Players Association or you have to even really worried about the financials of a league. Although I think we can talk about some of that as well. It's just more like, how can the game be improved? Because when you're talking about improving the game, you start off with okay, but what would actually improve the game? And then you drill down on the feasibility of that.
Yeah. So the first thing I would do, and again, this would not happen, but I think it would improve the sport. It would improve the league. It would improve the discourse around the league. I think people would take a greater interest in the entire league if we did this. And that is that I would have 60 games in the regular season.
Yeah.
You play every team one time at home, one time on the road. It's about, I did the math. It's about, it's a little over 3.5 games per week now. Now it's actually a little bit more than that because I'm not including, all-star breaks and things like that. But over a 6-month span, 3.5 games per week. If you can get that down closer to 2 games per week, I think those games are events.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the issues that we have, injuries, just a really, really hard sport to play. Now, I like that it's hard to play because I think it showcases athleticism, fluidity. There's a lot of things I like about the current style of play. There's some things I don't like. We can talk about that in a sec. But I don't think that is necessarily broken. But it's extremely hard to play that 3.5 times per week,
Yep.
which leads to blowouts and sloppier games. It leads to load management because people are afraid of injuries. And then it also leads to injuries as well. Now, would the players and the owners do that? No. They want the TV money. They want the gate money. But if you had that, I think every game would be an event. It would feel like if you lost a game, a much bigger deal than if you lose a game right now. And I think it would be a way to showcase more national games, right? Because you don't have load management and you can kind of isolate some of the bigger games in the league. That would be my number one fix for the NBA. Would never happen, but hey, I'm king for a day.
Yeah. No, and I think like certainly when we were compiling our list, this was one where I expected us both to bring up. And you brought up the revenue. And look, I think a lot of people are like, well, owners would never agree to this. Players wouldn't agree to this either. Because they get, that's what is it, a 51-49 split of the revenue? I forget exactly what
It's
it
around
is.
50-50. Yeah.
It's right around 50-50. So they're very incentivized to keep the revenue up as well. Like they want their money.
They're in lockstep.
Yep. I do think it would be fascinating to actually sit there and wonder, well, how much revenue would this actually cost? I would love to see a great, in-depth, impartial, neutral study of, because I think you can make a real case that if you have fewer games, you can end up making more each game. Now, I don't know if it's enough to, if you're talking about 22 games that you miss by 30 teams, you're talking what, 300 games because they played against each other. Like you're talking about a good number of games. I don't know if it's enough to make that up.
Yeah.
But I do think it can come close because you get, more games on national TV than on local TV, where you get a higher per game revenue. Games matter a heck of a lot more, like a lot more. I think making each game feel like it has actual stakes would be huge for, attendance, for viewership, for everything.
Your TV ratings would go up. Now, I don't think that would get you more money because you're already locked into that contract. You've just signed that. But you'd have more leverage in future years.
And, I think what you brought up about the level of competition, about stars playing, like it really is. And look, I think this playoff run really beat it into us, but like, this is the toughest era to play in. Like with the amount of ground that you have to cover.
So hard on your lower body.
You are just going to have so many injuries. So when you see stars resting, am I going to blame the stars? No. And this is like, go back, because what we're saying, go back and watch a 90s game on YouTube. Watch how much ground they cover, or more specifically, how much ground they don't cover. Like they're playing in a 15 by 15 box. You're pushing people out 27 feet a lot of times nowadays because you've got players.
Too. They're standing still 15 feet away from
it. It is so much more demanding. And I'm not talking demanding like, oh, you get tired. I'm talking like you're just cutting more. You're making hard breaks more. Like, of course, you're going to have more injuries. The only way to arrest that problem is to play fewer games, give them more rest, and give your stars a chance to, really just rest in between games. And more specifically, just make every game have consequences. Like, I would love to get to a point where, like,
when you lose a game, it sucks.
Yes. And I think there's so many benefits to decreasing the amount of games. And look, like I said, I would love to see a study, not because I know how much of that revenue you can make up, but I'd be interested in finding out because I think every other aspect would be improved upon by playing fewer games. Like it solves almost every one of their problems, except revenue.
Completely agree. And that's because, like you said, the owners and the players are sort of in lockstep here where this is a 50-50 issue. Neither of them want to give up the additional money from the extra games, but it's the one issue where I look at 3 or 4 of the biggest complaints about the league, and the main one being injuries.
Number 2 being load management,
which is also tied
Number
into
3
injuries.
being March and April don't matter.
And then number 4, the amount of blowouts. And I just think when we watch, especially early in the playoffs, right? Because at the end of the playoffs, it's a war of attrition. And that's not as easier of a fix for me.
Yep.
I don't know how to change that. I like that you have to win 4 out of 7, but I did see Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum, and Tyrese Halliburton all tear their Achilles at, well, not in Dame's case, but the other guys, pretty young players that shouldn't be happening to
Yeah.
them. I don't know how to fix that because I love the level of competition and physicality that we get in the playoffs. But one way to start is making the regular season shorter
Yep.
and mean a little bit more. I just think, too, as a neutral, as somebody who loves watching the Sixers and loves focusing on one team, wouldn't it be nice as a basketball sicko for 5 nights a week to just be like, oh yeah, there's 3 games tonight, but one of them is Celtics Lakers, and
Yep.
that is the marquee game. Or Oklahoma City in the last few years, if there was a 60 game schedule, oh man, he has been must watch TV, and they are the marquee game tonight. They're playing Houston tonight. I just feel like I would know so much more about the league. I mean, it's part of the deal with the NFL, and I think why it's so popular is that there are only 17 games. Now they're adding games now, but the fact that there's one game every week,
Mhm.
the focus is on the games. Now there's focus on other things like fantasy sports and gambling and other stuff. So I don't want to just completely
Yeah.
say that the NFL is focused on the games, but by the nature of just having one game per week, more of the focus turns into the games. Turns into let's recap the last game, on Monday and Tuesday, and then let's look ahead to the next game. Now the NBA can't get all the way there, but I do think lowering the schedule to 2 games per week, it would make the quality of each individual game a lot better.
No, I think there's almost no denying any of that. Like, I really would struggle to see anybody say the on-court product wouldn't be improved by playing fewer games. You might say like, well, I would miss, not being able to watch my favorite team one extra time a week, and I get that, but I think in terms of the on-court product, it would undeniably be improved, but there is money.
And I also understand that too. There might be some people in the chat who are like, look, I love the Sixers, and I'd just rather watch them play close to 4 times per week.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I understand that as well. People use sports as an escape from their everyday lives. And like, look, we would have, fewer shows. So it's not like we don't benefit a little bit from it by having more games to talk about. But yeah, there's like getting rid of back-to-backs. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah. Yeah.
That we wouldn't have to watch the Sixers play in Charlotte on a back-to-back. It just, I think the product would improve greatly, and the overall interest in the league would also improve. That's all.
Yeah. Yep. No, I would love to see it, but we will never see it, unfortunately. But this is King of a Day. We don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
What's your number one?
This will probably surprise almost nobody, but hard cap. And look,
Ooh.
I think they have largely almost gotten there. Like the second apron is almost a hard cap. But if you're going to do that, and look, I think there's a million reasons why you would want a hard cap. And this isn't about player revenue. Like players are still getting the same percentage of the revenue. It's about, this convoluted mess of a collective bargaining agreement that they had to install to try to get you close to being a hard cap. I really think it does a number on the fans when they don't know what moves are legal. They don't know what teams can do. They have to go to shows like this or written content to try to figure out what in the world does a second apron even freaking mean? And I have to sit here and try to pretend that any of this second apron talk is interesting to anybody. Nobody wants to talk about a second apron. You just have to because it's an undeniable part of the sport. So, if you have a hard cap, it's real obvious. Here's a line. You can't freaking cross it.
Yeah.
Not okay, you're above this line, so we're going to cross off these 6 transactions that you can no longer do.
Yeah.
And then if you cross the second line, you have even more transactions you can't do. And if you do one of these transactions, you get hard capped and your head spinning. Oh my God, just do the thing that you're actually trying to do.
Well said. So we were talking about this a little bit before the show. And since I have moved off the beat, there has been a new collective bargaining agreement that has gotten way more complicated than the other one. And I felt like when I was a beat writer for the Sixers, I knew the old collective bargaining agreement pretty well. That still felt like I needed a law degree to an extent. And I really had to read Larry Kuhn's FAQ and really pour over all of the details in a way that I was proud. I was proud of I wasn't as good as you. You really knew that last CBA, but I had a pretty good understanding of, okay, that move's not legal. That move is legal.
Yeah.
That took a lot of effort. This new CBA is 300% more difficult. And so you mentioned simplifying it. I think the perfect example is in the 4 major sports that we have, the 4 that we cover here, only one of the sports has a hard cap, and that is hockey.
Yep.
And it's very interesting to see because listening to Bill and Charlie, who do a fantastic job on our Flyers podcast, listening to them talk about, it's like, yeah, it's like $200,000 too rich, like, or whatever. But everybody understands that. And I find it funny as like an NBA viewer because it's like, yeah, I've seen NBA contracts where it's like, all right, who cares? It's
Yeah.
a $5 million overpay. But because it's a hard cap and you have to get under a certain number, and because they have things like salary retention and other ways to sort of stay under that line, it's a much easier salary cap and financial situation to digest as a fan.
And look, obviously, like I spend a lot of time talking about and reading and writing about the collective bargaining agreement. Like some of the articles I do that do the best numbers end up being cap related. I've just spent a lot of time trying to work at explaining that. So it probably hurts my career a little bit, but I think it helps fandom so much. Like just knowing, like, there's so many people that have just given up on the CBA and the rules. And because of that, you get a lot of asinine trade proposals, stuff that can't legally happen. And I don't even blame like the fans who are proposing this because it's just gotten completely out of hand. And like I said, I think a lot of these changes and a lot of the complexity comes from the fact they want what is in essence a hard cap without having to actually get the Players Association to agree to a hard cap. And I think the impact is pretty close. I actually think they've done a good job in that respect. I think it's just created a mess for fans. I really do. And I think the other thing I would love to see is, and I've talked about this for a while, I don't actually know if this would be good for the league,
I know what you're going to say.
but I'd love to see how it plays out. Just remove the max
No
salary
max salaries.
restrictions. Like if someone wants to give, Luka Doncic $120 million
I was just about to say this.
and you have to fill out the rest of your roster with like minimum salaries, let them try. Because I think the one thing that, it's one thing, you're never going to decrease the value of stars, right? When you're playing a sport in which there's only one ball and that one player can, create triple teams or draw triple teams and create scoring opportunities for his teammates, stars are always going to have an outsized impact. There's only going to be so many players in the world who are capable of doing that. But I think what you really want to try to do, if you want competitive balance, and I think there's probably an argument for the league health that you may not want competitive balance, you want dynasties, which you don't actually have in the CBA anyway. But I think theoretically, like the league probably likes what happened in Golden State because I think having that and having a team like that you can either root for or root against, like a lot of NBA history is defined by those dynasties. So I'm not even sure if parity is what the NBA is truly after. But if you are,
well, that's what they're going to get. If Oklahoma City is the last beacon against parity, because if they get broken up and they don't work out as a long-term champion, I think you're going to have a ton of parity.
Yeah. But I think one way to try to do that is, all right, if there's only 20 stars in the league, make it really difficult. First of all, to put three of them on a team, but even to put two of them on a team at a time. Make it so like if you're going to overpay Luka Doncic, okay, then you're going to have to make do with a really tough roster build ahead of you.
It would make team building so much more interesting.
Yeah. And again, I don't know if that would be good for the league. I truly don't. And part of that is because you could see more star movement, and I don't think the league necessarily wants star movement. And obviously, then you would have to worry about small markets. And I think that is a conversation that would be difficult to have. But just from a game theory perspective, I think it would be fun if stars could actually earn what they're worth.
What do you mean with small markets?
I mean, like, well, I was going to say Minnesota, but they're spending $1 billion and OKC's spending $1 billion. So I guess revenue sharing has taken care of a lot of that.
Yeah, you keep that in there.
Yeah.
So what would you set the hard cap at? The current second apron? That's
probably a tiny bit above that, I would say, but yeah, in that range.
So that's $207 million. Let's say we bump it up to $215 million. That's your hard cap. What does Luka Doncic go for on the open?
It would be a truly fascinating question. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it play out.
Does he get $100 million?
I think he probably does. Yeah, I think some team goes, I'll give him half of my salary cap. Yeah, but that's my point, because after that, it would be really tough to get like a secondary star alongside of him, and you might be like, all right, I've got my one star. Now, how do I get the exact right role players with my remaining salary?
What does Wemby go for? $150 million on a longer contract. You know who would complain? By the way, I completely agree with you. I think that would make team building a lot more interesting and a lot less reliant on just getting lucky in the draft. Free agency would be interesting. There would be multiple different ways to try and build a team too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can you get 8 guys that make 30 million or whatever it is? Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. The guy who would really complain about that if they changed would be LeBron. Would be like, come on, man. Like, for my whole career, I would have been the guy that got 80% of the
I
salary
only
cap.
made $1 billion. Please help me.
I could have made $2 billion. He's a businessman, not a
Well, and not
businessman.
only that, but
He's a
like in
businessman.
all reality, where this would come into problem, like the middle class, like the Quentin Grimes of the world, who's already pretty pissed off right now, probably. Tomorrow's show, again, reminder, they would just get squeezed so badly, and I don't think they would ever go for it. Like Players Association would never go for that. But I think from a, like I said, a game theory perspective, I think that would be fun. All right. Before we get to our next ones, you want to talk about some of our guys?
Let's talk about some of our guys.
All right, first up, we want to tell you about Cherry Hill Jeep. If you're looking for a Jeep or Ram truck, there's only one dealership in South Jersey who's been the market leader since 1967. Our friends at cherryhilljeep.com have you covered on the best selection, but more importantly, the best prices. Right now, take advantage of the True Zero offer, $0 down payment, $0 first month payment, and $0 security deposit now through July 30th. First, I think I might have a copy there. Slide into a 2025 Jeep Wrangler this month for $289 a month. Every Wrangler delivers strong drivetrains, innovative engineering, and quality components that underpin this icon's legendary heritage. Or pull away in the most luxurious and functional SUV, the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo, and included in the True Zero offer. Stop in today, tell them PHLY sent you, and receive an additional $1,000 for your trade-in. I know people buy Jeeps and Ram trucks elsewhere. I just don't know why. Drive home in your new Jeep or Ram truck today, just minutes from all bridges, or available online 24/7 at cherryhilljeep.com.
And now let's talk about our people at Empire Today. Guys, just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. And Empire Today, they are the ones that can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. And guys, we have all been to those big box stores. You wander endless aisles, and then somehow you're hauling all of the materials home, looking for an installer, and coordinating everything yourself. And those big box stores, yeah, they might have a flooring department, but they are generalists. They have people that are working in all different specialties, but not Empire Today. They live and breathe flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way. It is a whole different ballgame. They're flooring experts. They bring the showroom right to your home so you can pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space while also getting precise measurements so there are no surprises. And with Empire Today, you get clear upfront and all-inclusive pricing, plus you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Nobody likes to wait. So guys, schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount with code PHLY. Yes, you heard that right. A $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers show, brought to you by Rothman Orthopedics.
All right.
I think you're up.
I'm going to go on court with my next
Okay.
one. I think your preamble about how both of us are actually pretty okay with the on-court product in the NBA. Now, the big thing is that they play too many games and it's hard to play. So we've already fixed that. But if I am looking at on-court changes, one thing to keep in mind, everybody, is, and I think this is an issue when some of these solves are proposed, unintended consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You might think you're fixing one problem, and you might be, but you might create two or three other ones with some of these suggestions. So I think the perfect example, and this is not something I would suggest, there have been a lot of people who have said, ban the corner three. And I think to myself, yeah, but what would that look like on the court? And if you just cut the line off at the corner, okay, yes, that high value shot is gone. I think that would increase more shots from the corner. If you don't like shots from the corner, I actually think you need to keep that in, because that low man who's on the weak side, instead of trapping the box is what they call it, having to help on those drives, you could play two big guys, right? You would get that style of basketball back in play, because they'd say, go ahead, shoot the corner two.
Yep.
It would just be a much lower value shot. I feel like you would get, for some reason, when I think of baseline jumpers, now maybe you have a guy, Antonio Davis from that 2001 Sixers Raptors series. He was on fire. He made every one of those shots. I feel like you would see a lot of Antonio Davis. And that is the mid range.
Everyone over the outstretched arms of Mutombo, too. He really terrorized them that series.
Very impressive. I don't want to watch that level.
No.
I don't want to watch that type of basketball because I think the corner three, one of the things is that it opens up driving lanes. And we
Yeah.
like to watch layups. We like to watch drives. We really like to watch dunks and alley oops. And those things would go away if you, to an extent, if you legislated the corner three out of the game. So, one thing that I had for on court that I think will not have unintended consequences, because a lot of people talk about bring back hand checking
Yep.
and
We've
what
got,
is the level of physicality that is the right level uh, in the NBA. Now, we should say in the last 1.5 seasons, they've added, they quietly behind the scenes let defenders get away with a little
Yep.
more hand checking, which I think is a welcome move. I wish they were a little more transparent about it, honestly, like to just sort of cook the books and
Also, like not midway through a season.
yeah, that was bad. I actually look at the other side of the ball. The one thing that drives me insane about contact in the NBA, they need to be 70 to 100% more aggressive calling the off arm
Yes.
from an offensive player. That needs to be. Now, a lot of times they have these points of emphasis. And for the first couple weeks of the season, everybody goes, oh, look, the point of emphasis. They call it. And the refs stop calling it at some point. They just get tired of it. And the point of emphasis goes away. That needs to be a point of emphasis for the entire year. I just think being able to use your off arm as a weapon, if the defender is really not allowed to put your hands on you, the offensive player should not be able to do
Yeah.
that. And there are way too many players in the NBA that are good at either kind of subtle off arm moves or even just using it as an arm bar to, let your own momentum just knock the player back. That would be the one thing I would legislate out of the game. And I would call it the Jason Tatum rule.
Yes, he's very good at it. Honestly, like there's so much about offensive players that would fall into this bucket. Like all the foul grifting stuff that they said they weren't going to let people get away with, and Jalen Brunson and Trey Young are still doing it. That to me, like, and it's tough because on the one hand, like if you're not getting foul calls at the rim, you're probably going to disincentivize driving a little bit. And I think that would have some consequences. And a lot of what we're going to talk about, and I'm sure if we get into some of the 3-point shooting, there are a lot of unintended consequences I think could make the game worse. But so much of the just, the Trey Young BS, like that's just, it's got to go. It's nobody enjoys watching it. I don't begrudge any player like Joel, like Trey, like Shea a little bit who use it, like, or Harden back when he was an elite foul drawer. Like you should be using every tool you have at your disposal to try to win a basketball game. I hold it against the league for allowing it to happen. And it's not fun to watch. It slows the game down. It makes it a free throw shooting contest. Vince somewhere is yelling that I don't pay to watch elite athletes stand at the free throw line and shoot an uncontested jumper. I get, or not jumper, but shot. I get it. I don't blame the players. I blame the league. I would love to get the foul grifting out as much as you can.
Yeah. And I mean, part of it is, I think the off arm too. Yeah, no, the grifting. Now, how do you get that out of the game is the question though. Is it just ref discretion being like that's a grifty move?
Yeah.
You
I don't have a great way.
you kind of see it in the Olympics. Joel, let's be
Yeah.
real. Joel struggled in the Olympics offensively, and there were a few times where he kind of tried to draw contact, and then in the NBA he would have gotten that foul, but it was a play on in the Olympics. Now I don't know exactly what their points of emphasis are, or sort of how they go about it, but I'm with you.
Yeah,
like,
it really is more a point of emphasis thing than an actual rule change, I think.
yeah. Well, and they've made some progress on this one. The one that drives me crazy, that Trey Young does a lot of time,
Get in front of the guy and stop.
stopping is just
Yes.
it's not basketball,
Yeah.
man. It's not basketball. And frankly, if the guy runs you over and you stop and it's an unnatural basketball move, I'm just calling a play on.
Yeah.
Just be like, you can't do that, man. Like it's just we're not here to watch you fall down.
I guess as we're here on the foul calling stuff, what do you think about the charge?
It's a great question. So the crash and charge, I think that's one of the most dangerous plays
Yep.
in basketball.
This isn't even like an aesthetic thing. This is a getting injured thing, I think.
I think, yeah, when a player, let's say from I talked about with the corner threes, a player on the weak side trapping the box. Like let's say, a guy on the right wing goes down the right wing. The guy who's defending on the left blocks, steps over to try and take that charge. Uh, I don't like that because that player is often airborne when the charge is being taken, and it's a non-basketball play. I mean, it's an aesthetic thing too because I don't watch the best athletes in the world try to undercut each other. That's something I used to do with my friends at recess in fourth grade, try and, get behind somebody and trip them or whatever. You don't pay all that money both in television fees and also just ticket fees to watch these guys do that. But like you said, it's also a very dangerous play. We're
Yeah.
playing on hardwood, guys. This is not the NFL where these guys are crashing to the softer grass. No. So yeah, I don't know how you legislate it out of the game because, again, I don't want to give the offense too much power. But
Yeah.
I think that specific play, there is an argument to be made for making the restricted circle just a little bit bigger
Yeah.
to take that
Yep.
type of charge away. Because I don't really mind the charges when if a guy's driving on you and just decides to run you over, I'm fine with giving that defensive player a charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is tough. And that's one where unintended consequences come into play. Eugene Ross calls the Jalen Brunson, Trae Young, the twerk drive, which is a pretty apt
That's what it
description of
is.
what's going on. Yes.
You're putting your butt back? Yeah, that's what it is. Let's be real.
Yeah. No, I would love to see the fouls cleaned up. And again, I don't know exactly how you legislate that. I think the making the charge circle a little bit bigger is a pretty good starting point.
Just like an extra foot and a half.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yep. All right, let's get to the three of it all. Do you change? There's obviously a lot of complaint about how many threes are taken in today's game. That has a lot of consequences from the watchability of it to it's just way tougher to hold a lead in today's game now. The just the sheer randomness of basketball seems like it's increasing because so much of it comes down to whether or not your threes are going in or not. But I also think there's a lot of consequences if you try to legislate threes out of the game or at least make them less prominent. What do you do about the jump shooting?
I mean, I think a lot of the cool dunks we see are a product of the floor being spaced and defenses being sucked out to guard the 3-point line. And then, that you get those shots. I mean, there have been studies, and I wish I could cite them right now, that a lot of the mid-range jumpers that have gone away are the off-ball mid-range jumpers, which nobody wants to watch. But you still see, I always bring up Kawhi in that Sixers series, but SGA, these players with the ball in their hands, these primary initiators, these high-usage players, Jalen Brunson, all these guys, yeah, they shoot more threes, but they still shoot a lot of mid-range jumpers. And we have no problem with those. Those are the mid-range jumpers that everybody glorifies. Those are the Kobe Bryant mid-range jumpers. Those are the Michael Jordan mid-range jumpers. Those really haven't gone away too much. So here's my view on threes. I think in general, when you're looking at aesthetics for the league, you want a diversity of styles to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I want somebody who is a complete jump shooting team have the same chance of winning that title as a team that's post up heavy or a team that does it a different way with defense or whatever. And if you look over the past few years, I mean, OKC, pretty low volume 3-point shooting team, but they were just so good at the defense and Shea was so good that they won another way. Really, the only team over the past few years that has made me question, are we getting a little out of hand with the 3-point shooting?
And they just got an extension today.
Huh? And he just got an extension today, Joe Mazzulla. I think this will play well on a Sixers podcast. I would watch the Boston Celtics over the past few years. And it was just like, I think Adam Mara has actually said this. I forget if he said it on All NBA podcast or on the DNVR podcast, but he was like, it's almost like they're gaming the system a little bit. They really were just playing one note with the 5-out spread, the 3-point line. And by the way, I hated the discourse when they lost to the Knicks in the first 2 games because it was like, oh man, our shot quality was great. It's like you lost, like you didn't make the shots. I don't think. I'm all for saying it's a make or miss league. Like I do understand that is a big part, but man, the discourse of, oh, we did everything right. We just missed all these threes that we took off the dribble. It's like we lost. Like you didn't make them, and the Knicks outplayed you down the stretch. of those games. They have been the one team that have made me think like, "Hey, are we getting like a little bit too 3-point happy now?" I don't know what the fix is. Do you move the 3-point line out a little bit beyond the break? I don't think you can get rid of the corner three. And by the way, I don't like the players that just stand in the corner and shoot corner threes. Now,
PJ Tucker.
I think there are a
Yeah.
few less of them now, but PJ Tucker and like Bruce Bowen, kind of the unskilled, cement your feet in the corner, just be able to make that one shot, but not do anything else with the basketball at a particularly high level. I don't like that. I just don't know what the fix is.
Yeah. No, and this is one where like I do think if you try to like, there are people who'll be like eliminate the 3-point line. No, I think that'll be really bad for the game. I think you're going to end up with, because there's been study after study after study. You're not, with the exception of Boston. Boston's the one team I actually think gives up layups for threes, especially corner threes, and they make me pull my hair out.
They really, it's like Tatum.
Yeah.
You have a 6-foot guy on you.
Yes.
Like put him in the basket,
Yes.
buddy.
Outside of that, for the most part, and studies, find this to be true, you're giving up the mid-range jumpers for threes. You're giving up that 17-footer for the 24-footer. And, I think there's some aesthetic reasons you might want, like you might prefer a mid-range jumper. Like I get it. Just the fact that like, if you make a mid-range jumper 44% of the time and a 3 35% of the time, the 3 might be higher value, but we enjoy watching the ball go in the basket.
Absolutely.
We don't enjoy doing calculations in our head in the middle of the game. And also a lot of mid-range jumpers.
Shot quality.
Yeah, a lot of mid-range jumpers tend to be aesthetically. Now, you brought up a good stat, which I think is true. Getting rid of the catch and shoot mid-range jumpers 100%. But like a lot of the other mid-range jumpers tend to be like tough contested pull-ups or turnarounds in the mid-post. Stuff that I think people enjoy watching and have enjoyed watching a lot of the stars master throughout the league. Now, you're still, like, KD shoots 1 billion mid-range jumpers. Joel Embiid shoots 1 billion mid-range jumpers. You're still getting that kind of skill level and showcase from your stars. So I think that's overstated at times.
And they're getting better and better at it.
Yeah.
So they're shooting 50+% on those shots on super high volume.
But I think a lot of people, like, have aesthetic preferences, which I get. But I think there's also, like, if you do any changes to prioritize or at least incentivize the mid-range jumper more, you are going to have tougher lanes to drive down. You are going to have, I think, stars. Like, I think one of the coolest things about the NBA is you take the best athletes in the world and the most talented players in the world, and you give them space to operate, and they can do amazing things. And I love watching that. And doesn't mean sometimes you have to watch a team miss 6 threes in a row, and that sucks. Yeah, it does. But I think if you go too hard, like I'm going to make a 27-foot 3-point line and really disincentivize people from shooting, okay, I think you're going to have a pretty bad product because of that. I do like wonder, like, because you've seen all kinds of crazy proposals about this. Like, maybe you expand the size of the court so you can move the corner 3 line back. I do think there's an argument for moving the line back a foot or two.
Yeah.
Now I think
that's where I would start.
Yeah, but anything more than that, I think is too much.
Well, that's where I would start too, because a lot of these shots from above the break are off the dribble, and I think if you moved it back a foot or two, it'd be like, I don't know, like 15 inches, something like that. I do wonder if the Steph Currys would just become even better players, because that wouldn't affect him.
Yeah,
that
Steph
really
would figure it out. Yeah.
He would basically shoot the same percentages. But if you're more of the, I'm trying to think of like a good example. I mean, again, I just think the better 3-point shooters would still be pretty darn good.
Yeah.
But the ones who are, catch and shoot type guys, I think it would hurt. It would hurt some of the stretch fives.
Yeah, if it's hurting those people who are there mainly to space the floor, then I do think those driving lanes evaporate pretty quickly. And you might get fewer threes, and you might get fewer role players taking threes, which okay, I can get that. But you're gonna have your stars are gonna have a tougher time driving down that lane. It's not. I think it does hurt the aesthetics of the game.
Yeah,
this is one. And look,
it's unintended consequences, man.
It's
just, and I understand. I think the NBA has not been proactive on the injuries and the length of the season. I understand why there's some skepticism and why they're a little more resistant to change here, because yeah, man, it's like a game of Jenga. Like you remove one block, like everything could come crumbling down, and all the things that you like about the game could get a decent bit worse.
Yeah. No, and it's a tough one, because there's been like a groundswell of support for, doing stuff to disincentivize threes, and that there are too many threes in the game. And like I said at the top of the show, like just because more people are active on social media and complaining about it, and because of that, a narrative can build very, very quickly, even narratives that maybe aren't necessarily I don't want to say grounded in reality, but are either overemphasized or the solutions are not as obvious and it's easy and there aren't unintended consequences. Like we've seen that in many aspects where you can overreact to stuff being built up in social media and it can take on a life of its own. And I do wonder a little bit if the too many threes movement, it's just, I feel like everyone repeats it. And because of that, it's become a huge issue. But I think a lot of the solutions create even bigger issues.
Completely agree. And by the way, the big solution here is Joe Mazzulla, like, tell your team to get dunks when they have open
Yeah.
driving lanes.
Take that layup. It's okay.
By the way, they're not going to have that spacing anymore. So I don't think we're even going to have to complain about them. Even when Jason Tatum eventually comes back, they're going to be in kind of a much more distant. They're not going to have the cheat code of their spacing.
Yeah. I agree. All right, a couple more buddies of ours.
Couple more buddies, and then we'll get to the final segment. Couple quick hitters we have.
All right, for the past 30 years, Golden Nugget Jewelers has operated out of the very same location in the heart of Philadelphia. Customers from across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and even Baltimore and New York City have come to Golden Nugget Jewelers to find the perfect engagement ring or wedding band. Their staff is highly trained and dedicated to providing a personalized shopping experience. Golden Nugget Jewelers has a vast selection of engagement rings and wedding bands, along with high-end watches, fashion jewelry, and sparkling diamond necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and more. And you receive a final cleaning and a written appraisal with every engagement ring purchase. Golden Nugget Jewelers has been family owned and operated business since 1987, right there on Chestnut Street, Chestnut and 8th in downtown Philly. You deserve an expert and the best price. Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Visit goldennuggetjewelry.com today to learn more.
And now let's talk about our guy, Dr. D at Dudat Dental. Guys, your smile says a lot, and let us introduce you to the team that helps you say exactly what you want with your smile. Meet the Dudat Dental Group. This is the team trusted to care for one of our city's greatest assets, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now entering their 5th season as the official dentist of the Philadelphia Eagles, Dr. D and his team have proudly served Philadelphia and its fans for over 20 years. They do it all, from robotic implant surgery and Invisalign to veneers, emergencies, and so much more. Locally owned and operated, Dr. D is a proud graduate of North Penn High School and the Temple University School of Dentistry. His commitment to the health and confidence of our community, it runs deep. So whether you're an MVP or a lifelong fan, this is the team that you want caring for your smile. Check them out at PhiladelphiaEaglesDentist.com. That is PhiladelphiaEaglesDentist.com, and discover how you can smile like the birds.
And while we were talking about Dudat Dental, we do want to tell you about the Bright Smile. The Dudat Dental Bright Smile of the day goes to still current PHLY employee, but not for very much longer, Zach Berman.
Zach.
It was, obviously they had the Osprey Awards the other night.
It's airing right now.
Yeah, it's airing right now, legitimately while we are on. I'm sure there's some people watching right now who will come back and watch our show later. And if you're watching our show now, please go check that out. When we're done, let us finish and then go watch.
It's going to stay there on YouTube. It's fun. Yeah.
But it was a really cool event. Ospreys are cool every year, but especially because this was sort of like a tribute to Zach. And there really is nobody who deserves that tribute more. Like, we both got a chance to work with him at the Athletic. We now obviously both got a chance to work with him here. And just the professionalism he brings, the hard work that he brings, the respect he has for all of his colleagues, but especially the respect he has for, I think, the readers and the listeners and the viewers is really second to none. And it's been great getting to know him. It's been great working with him. Wish him nothing but the best, and he will be very, very, very heavily missed here at PHLY.
2 quick things on ZB. Literally the most genuinely nice guy I've ever come across.
Like, almost annoyingly nice, because it's like, why can't I be that nice?
Some people,
because I'm a sarcastic little...
Some people think it's a bit. It's not.
Yep.
He A+ friend and teammate, number one, and his work ethic is just second to none. Like, his just motor just keeps running and running and running. So, gonna miss ZB. We should also say, also another nice smile, Mr. EJ Smith, who announced today that he's taken over Zach's role as Bo's co-host on the PHLY Eagles Show. EJ, I've gotten to know him a decent bit over the last couple of years. Great guy, great personality, also very good at covering the Eagles. So Best of luck to Zach, and welcome EJ to the PHLY fam.
100%. Once again, that is a bright smile of the day brought to you by Dudette Dental. All right. What else do you have for us in terms of rule changes?
So I don't really
Or
have
not rule changes, changes to the league, I should say.
this really got hammered home last year, and it's kind of two suggestions in one. We got to do something about replay, and we got to specifically do something about the last 2 minutes of every NBA game. There are way too many times that the last 2 minutes with commercials and replay and when the officials do the replay, when they say, okay, we got to look at something, and all of the fouling at the end of games, the last 2 minutes should not take 25 minutes of real time.
Yeah.
That's all. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, would you go far enough to say just replay is out?
I've gone back and forth on this a little bit. Like in my heart, I want the call to be right. And I want the team that deserved to win. But for two things. First of all, they've gotten the replay reviews wrong enough where I'm not even convinced going to replay is going to get us the right result.
It really is wild. Like, I mean, Nick Nurse, obviously the worst I've ever seen at it, but there are times when I agree with Nick Nurse and I'm thinking like, yeah, I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah. So I'm not, if we're going to have a stoppage of play and take time out of our lives and extend the most important part of the game, you better get that right. And there's enough misses that I question that. You know, I'm not one where like, oh, human fallibility is part of sports. Like I would love for the calls to be perfect. I would look, because, you know, the human side of sports are the athletes competing in the game. I don't need errors from refs to make this more like a relatable event. I want to see the athletes, you know, do what they are paid to do and do what they are the best in the world to do. So I'm not necessarily coming at it from a, you know, just embrace fallibility, but it does drag the game down. It's very annoying. I don't know.
I just don't know if we've reached an efficient form of perfecting the calls. Yeah. I mean, I will say, when you're invested in the game, and Gene mentioned in the chat that the refs stink. Yeah, there are a lot of times I'm watching a Sixers game. I'm like, yeah, the refs stink. Are there times when I'm watching a neutral NBA game when Scott Foster is getting on his high horse and just making bad calls and just peacocking to the to the coaches? Huh?
You would not peacock.
You know, just puffing his chest. Do I get a kick out of that? Do I get a kick out of Kyle and I's favorite video, which is the Enter Sandman Scott Foster highlight reel? Yes, I enjoy it. It's like it's part of the drama and the character of the league.
Please, everyone, you know, go on YouTube and find that after the show.
You'll find it. It's very funny. But yeah, so I don't know what the right answer is. I think it's good. Like the fact that it's limited replay for the NBA, where you only get two. So if you feel very passionate about one call, you know, in the middle of the third quarter, that's fine. And even if you get it right, you only got one more left. That's it.
Yep.
So I think that's probably okay the way they do it, even though a lot of times they go to review. I think the call is completely obvious one way or another. And then they're like, nah, it's actually not.
Yeah.
So I don't know the exact rules, but yeah, I just think the end of games take a little bit too long.
No, and I feel like this has been a complaint for a long time. Like I feel like every generation has probably complained about how long the end of the game takes, but it has undoubtedly gotten worse with replay and worse just with TV timeouts and having to get ad breaks in. And I don't know how to fix any of that because, as we talked about at the beginning, you're not giving up revenue. That's just not something the league is interested in doing. And also, like the replay's a mess. I agree. But I don't know the fix.
That's one where I don't have an answer. I mean, if I'm king for a day, I could just say no commercials at the end of games or something like that. That's not how the real world works, though.
100%. Did you have anything? We got about 10 more minutes left. Was there anything else that really stuck out to you? Because I got through most of what I wanted to get through, I think
I got through most of what I need. I mean, I think
What do you think about hand check? Because I think it was Marcus Blackstock was bringing hand checking. What do you think about hand checking? And again, they've allowed them to get a little more physical in the last year and a half. But
I think too much hand checking is no good.
Yeah. I agree.
If you get the 1990s style of hand checking, yeah, it's
Those
cool.
aren't the fouls that I want to legislate out.
It's cool to wax poetic
Yeah.
about those plays. You know who was actually pretty good talking about this too, because sometimes the old school versus new school element got brought up. I will give him credit. Doc Rivers, who played on those physical New York Knicks, Pat Riley teams in the 1990s, he was like, "Yeah, the stuff I was allowed to do defensively. I mean, we beat the hell out of people, and you don't probably want that in the modern game." Was Doc's general point on that. Um, so I would start with the flopping on offense and the off arm type stuff, and try and rein some of that back in. I do understand the desire though from Marcus and a lot of other people to make the game more fair for
Mhm.
defenders, where to reach an equilibrium where the offensive player just isn't so far at an advantage. And I think as recently as a couple years ago, the offensive player was way too much at an advantage, where they were getting the benefit of the doubt on so many calls and so many rules. So I do understand that impulse, but I would start by reining back some of the stuff the offensive player is allowed to do, because I like freedom of movement.
Yeah,
I like
I do
watching
too.
guards cross over and be able to drive into the paint and rise up for dunks and throw alley oops and all of those cool things. One other way you might be able to this is something that I thought about during Joel Embiid's earlier years, when he was much more of a post up heavy player. Now, credit to Joel, he definitely adapted his game into more of a face up game, where he got a lot of the advantages that the smaller players got from the style he was playing, except he was also stronger than everybody
Right.
as well. Again, really talented guy, figured it out at some point. I do wonder, one thing I didn't like in that time frame was there was so much freedom of movement, and Steph and Harden were the two guys just like allowed to do whatever they want on the perimeter. And then you get underneath the basket, and people are allowed to beat the hell out of Joel. And I wonder, part of that is just because his back is turned to the player, and the guy, it turns into a wrestling match down there. But in the name of trying to get a diversity of styles, and try and get a variety of players uh, able to be successful at the highest level in the NBA, I do wonder if not bringing back the post up entirely, because it's still not my favorite thing to watch. It's fun to watch when Hakeem Olajuwon is doing
Right.
dream shakes, but in general, there's not a ton of Joel Embiid's. There's not a ton of Hakeem
Not as
Olajuwon's.
fun when it's Janai Broom.
No, but maybe I don't know. Getting contact down low a little more even with out on the perimeter. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that either. All right, a couple quick hitters I'm going to ask about before we get out of here. Is there anything you could do to fix intentional fouling?
You mean like? Well, I mean they started to do some stuff
Like,
with the take fouls.
yeah, would you do anything? Is there anything more you'd do?
You mean with like hack shack stuff?
Either hack a shack, like intentional fouling when you're, up 3 to make sure they don't get a shot off, or even
Oh,
above that.
yeah, that's an interesting one. The up three, I hate watching that.
Well, because
That
we just talked
game.
about the last 2 minutes. A lot of times, the last 2 minutes isn't even really basketball anymore.
Well, and there were a couple examples during these playoffs. I'm happy you brought that up. During these playoffs of teams trying to foul. Oklahoma City did it in one of their home games against Denver, and they got burnt because they didn't make the free throws. Yeah, that's not as much fun to watch. Now, there was a time in the next series against Minnesota where Minnesota actually had a chance to tie the game up, and Oklahoma City fouls. Yeah, I don't like watching that.
Yeah,
What's the exact rule?
I don't know.
I don't know. I if I'm king for a day, I'm saying if you intentionally foul somebody, and it's of the ref's discretion. Now, this would not be realistic in the real world. That team would be allowed to shoot. They could either take 2 free throws, or they could take 1 free throw on the ball.
Yep.
That would be the way I would do it.
Okay. It's because Winona's bringing it up in the chat. How do you feel about the take foul? Good change?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's a little messy how they legislate it.
Yep.
It feels like there are times when players are actually getting pretty good at. They're clearly doing a take foul, but they're not just like
Right.
automatically bear hugging
Yep.
somebody. So making it that obvious. But it's definitely a good thing. You want fast breaks. You
Yep.
want dunks.
I think that was a good, slight change that had a real impact to it. Last one before we get to the roll call. Elam ending's just way too crazy, right? It's way too drastic of a change.
It's too drastic.
Yeah. I do think if you were like building a game from scratch I think there's merit to like an Elon type ending, but
It's
I
a
wouldn't
little
do it
it's a
now.
little too radical for me. I understand it. I enjoyed watching it on the tournament when they had it. It's just, I mean, every game is a walk off.
The only thing I had left was the NBA draft lottery, but I don't think we have the time to get into that in this one. Because we can agree the wheel is BS, right? The
The
wheel
wheels,
that
yeah, Mike
Zarin,
Zarin, yeah,
yeah,
that's BS.
yeah. I don't,
I just don't like the takes. The NBA can't win with the lottery,
yeah,
and the Sixers have radicalized me with this because the amount of whining
yes,
that Dallas got. Again, I understand whining that Dallas got the number one pick because they made the worst trade we've ever seen in the season, and you don't want Nico Harrison to be rewarded. I completely understand that. But there were so many takes that were like, Adam Silver doesn't care about small markets. It's like, man, small markets had the same. A lot of these NBA teams, they voted against the Sixers when they were trying to tank and trying to get the best lottery odds. And guess what? Sometimes the team with the 13th best odds in these new lottery, they win. That's
yeah,
what you voted for. When the Sixers were there, it was, I can't believe these teams that are tanking are getting the top picks in the NBA draft. And now that you flatten out the lottery odds a little bit, it's, I can't believe that this team
yeah.
that barely missed the playoffs won the lottery. So I don't really know what the right answer is.
No, and I think this is one where any solution is going to have some negative consequences to it. And like I think we see now, where like if you're a borderline playing team, you go, all right, I'll take my chances in the lottery. I think you've just shifted the window of tankability a tiny bit. And I don't love the fact that the teams most in need now have less and less and less of a chance of getting the player that they need. Like it's one thing to say like we want to disincentivize tanking, and I get that. Like, I don't think anybody necessarily loves that tanking as a part of the sport. But when you're talking about a draft where like the superstars, come from the top 3 picks by a huge margin, it's hard not to. Okay, well, if you don't want teams to tank, then you've got to find a way for the have-nots to become a good team without that draft home run.
The bottom teams need some degree of
Yeah,
hope.
you can't like the solution to, all right, this team is so desperate that they're going to piss off their fans and have less revenue, that they're going to intentionally lose games toward the end of the season or even a full season. The solution to that can't be like, well, let's add randomness so that those desperate teams have less of a chance to get what they need. And because at the end of the day, like teams aren't losing because they fetishize losing. They're losing because they're desperate and they need to find a way to get a superstar. This kind of goes back to the hard cap and the removing the restrictions on the max salary slot. If you're not going to like, if you're going to make the draft more of a crapshoot, you have to find a way to give teams that are irrelevant a chance to truly get a superstar and make themselves relevant outside of the draft. But
the NBA gets so much criticism about this, but every sport has agreed, and they're right to. If we don't have relegation in the sport, and we're not, incentivized to just be the best team, and there aren't those windows. And by the way, like the soccer relegation, I mean the free agency and stuff and transfers are complete free for alls in that sport, and the haves have way much.
yeah,
They just have so many more resources, so that's probably not the right answer. In American sports, if we have a fixed number of teams in the league, I'm sorry, the teams at the bottom need some degree
Yep.
of hope to get better.
I agree.
And if you make it completely random, there would be some franchises that would not have that hope.
Honestly, we could probably do an entire show on the lottery because that's one where I think, first of all, I spent a lot of time thinking about it because the Sixers, I don't know if you remember this, spent a lot of years in that lottery, desperate for a franchise player, but also because I think this has such huge ramifications for teams that, like I said, there are just teams who are desperate and they tank because they're super desperate. Find a way to even out the stars, to distribute the stars to more teams. Otherwise, they have to have some kind of hope. All right. Once again, if you are watching on TV, head on over to allphly.com so you can join us for the rest. Although, that being said, probably not the day to really advertise that because I'm not sure if we have all that much. Is there anything else you want to bring up here before we get to the roll call?
No, just one more additional point on the lottery stuff we're talking about. The reaction from really the entire national media about the Wizards and all these teams that tanked this year not getting Cooper Flag. Give me a break. 10 years ago, it was the exact opposite. If people
You can't reward them for losing.
If people left that lottery and just said, I can't believe Nico Harris. I can't support Nico Harrison getting that pick. That's absolutely fine. But attacking the system after the same people really just attacking the other system, it drove me insane.
Yep.
The Sixers and Sam Hinkie have radicalized me, everybody.
Well, and they radicalized Sam Presti, because I don't know if you remember, but he was one of the GMs when they initially tried to do the lottery reform back in like 2015. He was one of the GMs that voted against it. Yep. Ended up helping him a little bit.
Well, he was on the right side of history, and he
was.
got some good karma. And now he's
some good karma, some good players, and a heck of a lot of draft picks in the future.
And now he's the best GM in sports, along with Howie Roseman. Yep.
Yeah, he's got a job for life. They're going to win a lot there. All right, you want to get to that roll call?
Let's get to the roll call.
Starting off with Winona on the top. We got Antoine 92. We got Ron there as well. We're going to scroll up, and I saw Hedva earlier in the chat. D Flyers, once again, hanging out. Appreciate you, D. Eugene Ross here, as always. Can always count on Eugene. Greeny Green. Let's see. Lost Sleep TV. A couple of others. I think I'm going to get to the end of my scroll wheel because I did a very bad job and did not jot down names. I can take over.
Jesse Joaquin was in the chat for a little bit.
Doing SIGs.
Yeah, Brian Knight. Yeah. Brian Knight was in there. Rick Morris was in there earlier in the chat. What up, Rick? Who else we got? Yams. Yams was hanging out at the beginning of the show.
JS2767.
Yeah, what's up, Jay? Marcus was hanging out. Marcus doesn't like the hand checking. I get it, Marcus. I get it. You want to make the defense have a little more power. Completely understand that. And I think that's about it. Did we get JS too?
Yeah, I just
JS.
I just said him.
That's why I'm not good at the roll call. Sometimes
I say double names all the time. That's why I honestly, like, most days I will sit there and I'll try, like, when you're doing your ad read, I'll just like jot down as many names as I can. I forgot to do that today, so I apologize for that.
Can I make a confession, because this is the last show of the week for us, and it's Friday. It's
outside of the one tomorrow.
Oh yeah, we're about to record one in about 5 seconds. A nice little mini pod for everybody, but it's the last time we're going to be hanging out with everybody in the chat. I will make a confession. Devon sometimes says names that aren't there.
Don't be blowing up his spot like that.
He does something.
Thank you, Val, for showing up. Thank you, Jess, with the Purple Heart. Yeah.
Val is the number one name.
I haven't seen Mom's grandchildren in here for a couple of shows here.
Oh,
I get.
We love Mom. Mom's always there. Yeah.
Shout out to you as well. We will add a couple names in there, even if you weren't here today. Thank you all for tuning in. Once again, of course, always hit that subscribe button if you can. Hit that bell icon to get notifications. And if you can, leave us a thumbs up. We would really appreciate it. And we will see you tomorrow. Again, tomorrow there's a Quentin Grimes show dropping in the feed, so be sure to check that out. See you then.
We all silly like the mayor.